The webinar will be start in 3, 2, 1.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, dan salam kebajikan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first webinar series of NEXUS, which stands for Narcotics Law Enforcement Knowledge Sharing of Aceh Customs. This event represents our commitment to build strong connection and collaboration by having knowledge and sharing sessions across countries in terms of combating narcotics as a part of our duties as customs officer. Hereby I, Vita Aditya, standing here as the master of ceremonies in this event. On behalf of the committee, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you for taking the time to attend this event. It gives me a great pleasure to be the anchor for this webinar, and I am excited to be hosting it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to me to inform you that among us here, we have the Executive Secretary of Indonesian Directorate General of Customs and Excise, Ibu Ayu Sukorini, who will give her opening remarks. We also have Director of Narcotics Interdiction, Bapak Syarif Hidayat, who will give his keynote speech on narcotics updates. Then we have the Director of Aceh Regional Customs and Excise Office, Bapak Safu Adi, who will give his closing speech. We would also like to introduce and greet our exciting panel of speakers lined up for you today. And we hope that you will find their presentations and discussions informative and engaging. So, here they are, our incredible speakers. Special Agent of NCIS or Naval Criminal Investigative Service. Good morning, Special Agent Brandy Waiters.
Selamat pagi.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Special Agent of Drug Enforcement Administration. Good morning, Special Agent Andrew Sia.
Good morning. Selamat pagi.
Okay, thank you. And we will also like to greet Miss Fiona Douglas, First Secretary Indonesia and Timor-Leste. Welcome, Miss Douglas. Okay, thank you. Not to forget, we will also like to introduce our moderator for today, Reni Satya Padmanabhan. Ladies and gentlemen, to warm up this wonderful event, I've already prepared for you a special poem with rhymes, also known as pantun, and which will be delivered in bahasa. Oke, Bapak Ibu sekalian, izinkan saya membuka sesi ini dengan pantun. Jangan lupa untuk disambut dengan cakepnya ya. Jalan-jalan ke Tembilahan. Tiba-tiba udah sampai ke Dumai. Sekarang sudah mau mulai pukul 9, Nexus Webinar akan dimulai. distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start, let me explain the agenda of today's event. The first agenda, opening session. Next, opening remarks from Executive Secretary of Directorate General of Customs and Excise, Ibu Ayu Sukarini. Followed by the speech from Director of Narcotics Interdiction, Bapak Syarif Hidayat. And the main event include discussion session led by our moderator. And the last one, we will have closing speech from Director of Aceh Regional Customs and Excise Office, Bapak Safwadi. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the next agenda. We invite you to sing the national anthem of Indonesia Raya, followed by the song of Indonesian Directorate General of Customs and Excise. Therefore, we are cordially asking you to have a full attention to it.
Indonesia, tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku. Di sanalah aku berdiri, jadi pandu ibuku.
Indonesia, kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku. Marilah kita bersama, Indonesia bersatu. Hiduplah tanahku, hiduplah negeriku, bersatu rakyatku semua. Jiwanya bangga merdeka untuk Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku negeriku yang tercinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku negeriku yang tercinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Biar cukai naungan kita yang merdeka bersatu padu, junjung amanat untuk membangun negeri, mengajar visi lantang bergema bersanding jarak dengan dunia demi tegaknya martabat bangsa. Senikan budi pekerti di hari penuh karisma, namakan berkomitmen kita bersama. Wajibkan sifat sahaja, menambah empati masa, berkarya menuju kejayaan masa. Gerakan segala daya dan upaya, berbagi untuk hidup berhenti. Menulis semangat profesionalisme, efisiensi dan pelayanan. Bea cukai kebanggaanku, visimu cari jiwaku, visimu hari darahku, strategimu gerak langkahku. Menuju untuk Tuhan yang besar, sembahkan bakti adik Tuhan, dan amanat kita untuk terus. Lanjut terus
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow us to invite our Executive Secretary of Indonesian Customs and Excise to officially start our webinar series today. So everyone, please welcome Ibu Ayu Sukorini.
Okay, thank you, Vita. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning. Greeting for all of us. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Distinguished Director and also Head of Regional Office who attend this webinar, the Deputy Director, Head of Section, Functional Office of DGCE, as well as all the colleagues who attend this webinar. And special mention to Special Agent of Andrusia, Special Agent of Brandy Waiters, as well as Inspector Fiona Douglas, who attend this webinar, as well as ready to be a speaker for this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation for the execution of this webinar. This remarkable initiative initiated by Regional Custom Office of Aceh stand as a symbol of the robust collaboration between DGCE and as well as international counterpart. Within the DGCE, it is also contributed by a colleague from Direktorat Narcotics Interdiction, Direktorat International Affairs, as well as Direktorat Secretary for DGCE. I recognize this webinar as an effort to develop and enhance the competence of DGCE officer in extending the execution of tasks related to the prevention and eradication of the illegal trade of narcotic, psychotropic, and precursor, or NPP, which form an integral part of the role and function as a community protector. Achieving this goal as a protecting the community necessities is a collective effort between the headquarters as well as the vertical or regional office, where the synergy and collaboration are very essential factor. Particularly in supervising NPP, cooperation is not only required between ministries and agencies, but also a robust international collaboration. The monitoring of NPP is shared concern for all nations in the world, especially Indonesia, which based on its demographic, predominantly by youthful population. According to data from BPS, end of first semester 2023, Indonesia population has reached 278 million, with nearly 70% are productive age category. This represents the challenge. It shows the challenge and ensuring that the younger generation is succeeded from the use of NPP in order to prepare a highly skilled workforce to propel Indonesia toward the vision so-called Indonesia Emas tahun 2045 or Golden Indonesia 2045. It is imperative that officers' knowledge and insight are consistently need to be refreshed from various perspectives, that they remain adaptable in line with the advancement in information technology in this current era. This webinar activity is anticipated to broaden the horizon of knowledge of on the field of NPP supervision by offering insight from the best practices from other nations. Participants are encouraged to actively listen to the presenters and cast the content in this event that holds significant value to all of us. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude and highest appreciation to the speaker who have generously devoted their time to share their experience and their best practice related to NPB supervision. The success of this webinar is made possible to the support of these experts, and we all hope that it paves the way to enhance and sustainable cooperation in the future. Lastly, on behalf of Directorate General of Customs and Excise of Indonesia, I hereby stated that the NEXUS International Webinar Series is officially open. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to Vita.
Okay, thank you very much for your delightful opening speech, our Executive Secretary. And thus, it also marks that the NEXUS Webinar Series 1 has now been officially begun. What a great ambience that we have here now, right? And so, moving on to our next agenda, please welcome Director of Narcotics Interdiction, Bapak Syarif Hidayat, to give his keynote speech, updates and hot issues regarding narcotics prevention and enforcement. Please welcome Bapak Syarif Hidayat. The virtual stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Vita. Distinguished Executive Secretary Ibu Ayu, distinguished Mr. Safwadi, Head of Regional Office of Aceh, and very special speaker also, distinguished Special Agent Brandy Waiters. Good morning, ma'am. And also Special Agent Andrew Sia from DEA. Good morning. And also from my close friend from Australia, Fiona Douglas. Good morning, Fiona. And also, of course, good morning to all of you, the participant of this international webinar concerning narcotic law enforcement knowledge sharing of Aceh Custom. Yeah. First of all, it is really a great pleasure for me to be here in front of all of you in order to give the speech concerning the hot issue on narcotic and drug enforcement. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this event, of course, really a very good event for us in order to enhance, to more coordinate the efforts in war on drugs, yeah, in combating the drugs smuggling into Indonesia. So my name is Syarif Hidayat. I am now the Director of Narcotic Interdiction. Have just about almost 2 years become the directors, and in this opportunity we would like to show, to see, also to show how the current issue concerning the drug situation in Indonesia. So please, for the presentation, just put on the presentation, please. Yeah. Yeah. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in this opportunity, of course, first of all, we'd like to show you the how to coordinate. Yeah. How to coordinate the coordination in the national level in Indonesia concerning the narcotics interdiction. Yeah. As we already know, that beside customs, actually there is a national coordinator in war on narcotics. That is the National Narcotic Board. We call it BNN. We call it BNN. And also beside BNN, there are another ones, National Police, Indonesian National Police, or we call it Bareskrim, National Police Bareskrim. They are also together with the BNN as a leading sector and also customs as a border protector agents to do the law enforcement approach. That's actually there are another system, what we call it the medical and social approach. But actually, customs mainly having role in the intelligence and also in the law enforcement approach. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the basis law for the narcotics is the law of number 35, 2009. That is concerning the narcotics, And then also we having another law, that is the Presidential Instruction number 2, 2020, concerning the P4GN. This is the national coordination, which coordinated by BNN in order to tackle the narcotic problem in Indonesia. The next page, please. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the current situation, Indonesia drug situation. As we know that geographically and demographic factors, Indonesia consists of more than 17,000 islands. Length of the beach is more than 85,000 kilometers. So this is a really vast country, very big country, where about 80% of the drug smugglings done through the sea. So you can imagine how difficult to guard this nation with a very big number of islands. And we are also surrounded by 2 continents, Australia and Asia, and also several neighboring countries which having land border also and sea border with Indonesia. And currently in Indonesia, we are having about 39 international seaports. So this is not easy to guard all of these 39 international seaports. In many countries, actually, the seaport usually for the international, they usually limited to several international seaports. But in Indonesia, the number is big enough. There are 39 international seaports. While for the air also, there are 17 international seaports. So big number of seaports, big number of way of coming of narcotic from foreign countries. And also we are having land border with Malaysia, with Timor-Leste, and also with Papua. That is the various entry access factor. While in the other factor, just like economic factors, now a very high price of narcotic in Indonesia. This is also making this business seems for drug dealers. Why I mention about this? Because that's the price of narcotics in the source of country, source country just like Myanmar or Afghanistan. The price is only about 40,000 rupiah per grams. But in Indonesia, it could reach 500,000. So tenfold or sometimes even 20-fold the price. So this is really a very interesting price, interesting price for the drug dealers. And while actually also there another situation that's COVID-19 pandemic factor. This last 3 years, so many shifting from carried by people to the package of postal shipment, and also the use of virtual money and a big amount of shipment through the sea. Next slide, please. And so this is the challenges against illicit drug that we are facing now. The first one is multiple drug users. The trend of narcotics smuggling is increasing because now the prevalence rate of user in Indonesia relatively high. around 3.7 million of Indonesian are users of drugs. So this is the number almost the same with the size of Singapore's. Yeah. So you can imagine that this big user of drugs in Indonesia become a kind of incentive for people to smuggling narcotics. And also currently the modus operandi and the new NPS, new psychoactive substances around also. The adaptive ability of the drug syndicates, they are always anticipated the move that we are doing. So also every year, several new psychoactive substances are found. So this is really make a big headache for all of us. And also the smuggling pattern also increasingly sophisticatedly syndicate coordination and communication pattern changing. They are now tend to collaborate. While we are law enforcement agency collaborate, they are also collaborating each other. So we are have to collaborate better and better every day in order to tackle this transnational organized crime that they are also collaborating each other. And also the Golden Crescent, the rise of the Golden Crescent syndicate in Iran. Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, those areas, they are used to produce only narcotics, cocaine and heroin, but now they are also producing big amount of methamphetamine. So this is really a big challenge for us. And also now they are also have a brave mind to smuggling the drugs through the southern side of Indonesia, which actually the wave is high enough. The wave of the sea about more than 4 or 5 meters sometimes, but they are doing smuggling those drugs into Indonesia to the southern side of Indonesia. Next, please. And concerning this Asia region current issue, so while methamphetamine is the main drugs of concern in East and South of Asia, in particular opium and heroin predominates in Southwest Asia. In South Asia and Captagon or amphetamine is in the near Middle East. So in Indonesia still the methamphetamine is the most used drugs in Indonesia. And also the supply, the production of opium and also the production of methamphetamine are growing from many sources. The main source for methamphetamine in which this time to Indonesia mainly are coming from the Golden Crescents around Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, and also the Golden Triangle. That's the Golden Triangle. The second one is the Golden Crescent. Is coming from the Afghanistan area and also from Southern America. Now we are we mentioned that area is the Golden Peacock. And beside that also there are several drugs coming also from Africa. And concerning the MDMA, still Europe is the main source for Indonesia, which usually coming from Netherlands and also from Belgium. And also in some cases also the drugs coming from Canada, and many also coming from South America, from Peru, from Mexico, and also from Colombia, but they are not directly into Indonesia, but through the air transportation. Next, please. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, next, please. So now, since the pandemic, and since the pandemic is almost over, this is the condition in Indonesia that COVID-19 and drugs impact outlook. That's COVID-19 crisis taking its toll on the global economy. But COVID seems don't change the number of drugs coming into Indonesia. So they are just changing the way. Usually they just transported through the airplane, the seaplane like that, or just carried by the person. But recently, when COVID happened in Indonesia, they just changing the way of transportation through the sea, mainly through the sea and also through the postal service. Yeah. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and now also new psychoactive active substances issue should be very carefully handled by us, yeah, because in several area outside of Indonesia, this NPS having a big toll also, especially in the United States. Yeah. Next, please. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as the title of this webinar is optimizing narcotic law enforcement through utilizing information technology, this is really a very relevant topic for nowadays, yeah, because what we are now understanding, we understand now that many of drugs, many of goods traded through social media, many using the online trading like that. So we have to carefully search and carefully learn and carefully go deep inside the online trading. Yeah. So in Indonesia, this is the case. Yeah. Usually, many of them trafficking by social media. Drug sellers advertise and offer via social media. Of course, they are not saying that they are selling drugs, but they conceal in the special name just like that. So we have to understand what usually drugs name, yeah, fake name of drugs in the social media. Yeah. Seller advertise via mainstream social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. And just for information, almost every day, maybe not almost every, but every day, every day, one or two cases in Indonesia, we intercept from the social media, Yeah, we intercept the trade of narcotics which sold through the social media, especially Instagram and also the Facebook. Yeah. And so the seller and buyer communicate via social media. So we have to have the ability to intercept and to understand the way of communication between the seller and the buyers. And the next is the sell and purchase agreement. Sometimes they also sell and purchase in the agreement, just put on site on the website, yeah, or on the Instagram. So we could also follow to understand the condition of the sale between the seller and the buyers. And then also the seller send the drugs, yeah, deliveries carried out using expedition and other modus operandi. So things we have to have a very good communication, a very good understanding and coordination with the company that's delivery company, yeah, with the delivery companies. And also drug receive and buyers give a testimonial. This is also happened in the online, yeah, in the social media. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Indonesian custom now is extending our ability by setting up what we are calling the custom narcotic targeting center. So in the system, we could analyze everything concerning the data that we are collected from the social media, from the dark web, from the online website that we are trying to search further. Yeah. And now also inside the custom narcotic and targeting center, we also put a system what we call the cyber crawling system inside the CNTC, and also we also put the system what we call it the possessor analysis. So the custom narcotic targeting center is a kind of big data system that accumulates all of the information concerning the drugs traded in the media online, and also the data that's uploaded by all of the custom official concerning the possessor analysis and any data that's related to the drugs traded in Indonesia. Next, please. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is some of the concealment modus that happen in Indonesia by now. The first one is mixed in snack or pet food packaging. Yeah, this is happen many times. Usually, they send the goods through the airplane. Yeah, for example, from many coming from Europe in this case. Yeah, they just conceal the drugs with the dog food, but the dogs fortunately could detect the drugs, even though it's covered by so many dog foods. Yeah. Then in the other case, within the compartment wall, this has happened several times. For example, they just put the drugs inside the windows. Yeah, the windows that's sent from Malaysia or at the door. Yeah, at the piece of door that is sent from others countries like that. And then this has also happened, the concealed in the liquid form. Yeah, so the liquid form, it's just look like water like that, but when we dry it, then become could be found the narcotics in the form of solid form. Yeah, they just dilute it in waters or a kind of waters. Yeah, like that. And then, but when we evaporate those liquid, then the drugs appear as the solid form. Yeah. And then the other one that's this is also very interesting, infused on towel and or clothes. Yeah, you can imagine that the drugs usually just made in the liquid form, and then towel just put inside and then just dry it like that. So if we checks carefully, we could see a kind of fines in the towel. Yeah, the fines powder in towel or the clothes. Yeah, sometimes like that. And also concealed inside the cloth. That is a very common things. And also concealed in the water filter. And sometimes in many cases also concealed in the engine. Yeah. Next, please. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the last data enforcement that intercept by Indonesian Custom, working together with National Police or with the BNN. Yeah, you can see that in 2019 there are 508 cases with the total number 3.928 kilos, 3.928 tons. Yeah, so 3,000.9 kilos of narcotics concealed in 2019, while in 2020 a little bit goes down, 3.2 intercepted by customs. And then in 2021, 4.5 tons, and in 2022 we intercept about 6 tons of narcotics, with 935 cases. Now in 2023, up to the last the end of September. Yeah, September 4.164 tons of narcotics. But up to today, up to 15th October, we already got about 4.7 tons. Yeah, so 4,700 kilos of narcotics, and mainly that is the good that's concealed mainly methamphetamine, and this is the modus operandi. You can see that in 2022, 2023, the most cases that we intercepted is from the crawling. So this is mean that the way they traded the goods, the narcotics, through internet, through online. So you can see that in 2022, 492 cases coming, we can intercept through the crawling, cyber crawling, and 2023 is 286 to this cyber crawling. So it means that's really the usage of the utilizing information technology is very, 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 very important in intercepting this importation of illegal drugs. Yeah. And while from the passengers around 117 in 2023, and postal also big enough, 191, and the rest is land border, domestic borders, sea cargo, air cargo, sea cargo, and also we found the cannabis field in Aceh area. So you can see that the big portion of the way they smuggling drugs into Indonesia mainly by using postal and also through the trading through the internet, through the online. So we optimize crawling method in order to intercept the drugs. Yeah, the drugs trading. Next, please. So this distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the remarkable case on 2023. We got around 108 kilos of methamphetamine from Malaysia to Surabaya by sea cargo. So this is really through the sea cargo, yeah, through the containers. 108 kilogram from Malaysia come into Indonesia through the containers, and then the other one is about 200 kilos methamphetamine from Malaysia to Aceh by seafood using a fish boat. Yeah, 4 people arrested in these years. Next, please. And also this is about the case study. What happened in Indonesia in this last April? Yeah. So last April, we got the information from DEA at the time. Yeah, thank you very much for the information. With the DEA, yeah, we are collaborating with BNN. Based the information coming from DEA, we received information that's about ships that carrying narcotic through the west coast of Sumatra. Yeah. And we just put 2 our big patrol, BC3004 and BC3002 toward the Hindia Ocean. So this is really the first effort that we did, yeah, to go to the very, very far away and also a very dangerous area. Actually, and the Hindia Ocean, usually the wave is could reach 4 to 5 meters. So this is really a big effort. But fortunately, that we got those ships, and we found about 309 packs of sabu still inside the compartment. Yeah. And the total number is 319 kilos of narcotics. So big enough. So thank you very much for the information from the DA, and I hope that in the future also another information that we could receive, and also we could join together to tackle the smuggling into Indonesia. So I think this is what the recent condition concerning drug in Indonesia, and of course that in the futures, I think we have to collaborate further in order to tackle the problem of narcotics, and also we have to utilize the information technology, as we mentioned before, we are now expanding the system to the custom narcotic targeting center and also the cyber crawling system in our database. So thank you very much, and I hope that through this webinar, all of Indonesian custom working for drugs enforcement could having a good discussion and get much more information in order to do better in intercept the drugs that's coming into Indonesia, and also to intercept the drugs traded inside Indonesia. So thank you very much, and selamat siang. Thank you very much, Ibu Vita. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bapak Syarif Hidayat. It was a wonderful insight and enlightening speech to all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, to make sure that we will not miss any moment for today's event, we would like to invite all of you to take some pictures with us. So make sure that you have opened your video. Okay. I will count to 3 and our operator will take our pictures. Okay, dear operator, are you ready to take some pictures with us?
Yes.
Oke, izin Ibu Ayu Sukorini. Okay, maybe we take one picture first. And so for the first pose, everyone can give your best pose. Okay, ready? I'll count 1, 2, 3, and hold your pose until the operator said okay. 1, 2, 3.
All right, done, Vita.
Okay, thank you. All right. For the next pictures, everyone can follow this pose like this. Okay. Okay, ready? And 3, 2, 1.
All right, then, Vita. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now we proceed to the webinar agenda. The presentation will be delivered by our incredible speakers, and also this agenda will be guided by my colleague Randy Satya Patmanaba as the moderator today.
Thank you, Vita. Good morning, everyone, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to welcome you to the first NEXUS International Webinar series, Optimizing Narcotics Law Enforcement Through Utilizing Information Technology. I'm Randy Patmanaba. It's an honor to be your moderator today. We've already heard from the Executive Secretary, Ibu Ayu Sukorini, that there are many ways to optimize NPP supervision, including knowledge sharing activities, such as this webinar, in which we will continue updating and adapting along with developments in information technology. Furthermore, Mr. Syarif Hidayat, the Director of Narcotics Interdiction, explained about hot issues on narcotics drug enforcement, which are, first, the current drug situation in Indonesia and the challenges against illicit drug, which include the syndicates which use cross-border networks in Asia and beyond, and emerging of new psychoactive substances. Besides more sophisticated concealment modes, we also face illicit drug trafficking by social media. And lastly, we have to appreciate Indonesian Custom and Excise Officer who have succeeded in thwarting drug smuggling, including more than 300 kilograms or more than 650 pounds of meth from Malaysia by sea cargo, and also 309 packs of meth by vessel interdiction in Ujung Genteng, India Ocean. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are also launching the logo of NEXUS. NEXUS logo consists of the cube, which depicts strong connection and collaboration. The gradient color scheme emphasizes the adaptive nature, and the X, which is actually a combination of K, which is knowledge, and S, which is sharing. So please give a round of applause for everyone who initiated NEXUS. So NEXUS aims to elevate the knowledge and skill of Indonesian Custom and Excise Officer by inviting experts from various backgrounds and by sharing knowledge and experience, and by providing a space to discuss about current issues on narcotics law enforcement. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are lucky that we have a diverse and esteemed group of speakers and attendees, and I'm excited about the enriching discussions we will have. Our speakers are: the first speaker, Special Agent Brandy L. Waiters, will talk about the mission and essential facts of NCIS, or Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The second speaker is Special Agent Andrew Xia, will talk about utilizing information technology in maritime narcotics law enforcement. And the third speaker is Ms. Fiona Douglas, will talk about optimizing narcotics law enforcement through information technology from ABF perspective. Thank you to all three speakers for your time, enthusiasm, and your willingness to share your expertise and experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, so let's begin our presentation session by inviting our first speaker. I will read her short bio. Special Agent Brandy L. Waiters, Chief of Force Protection Detachment, Indonesia. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice Studies from Florida International University. Her work history and responsibility includes Special Agent with NCIS since 2014, the NCIS Southeast Asia Field Office in Singapore. In 2019, promotion to Supervisory Special Agent. In 2020, the role of SSA at the NCIS Resident Agency Office located in Annapolis, Maryland. The U.S. Naval Academy, Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Camp David, and other U.S. Navy and Marine Corps commands in the National Capital Region. Ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to Special Agent Waiters, I encourage you to engage actively. Feel free to jot down your question, as we will have a dedicated Q&A session after the talk. Or you can also type your question on Slido, on the head link, or you can check on the chat box. You can also ask the question directly on the Q&A session. And please don't forget to put your name on Slido so we can address you on the Q&A session. Let's make the most of this opportunity to learn from Special Agent Waiters' expertise. Special Agent Waiters, the screen is yours.
Focus that we are talking about today in this presentation is transnational crime and proactive investigations with regards to narcotics smuggling. And that is something that we as NCIS do have some expertise in. So the NCIS was instituted based on a military instruction by the Department of the Navy. However, we are a civilian organization. And by civilian, it means that we are regular police officers, just like you guys are. We are not active duty military, we are civilian. We have a civilian director, Director Omar Lopez. This slide shows the leadership and executive directors that are part of NCIS. As you can see, I am nowhere in this because I work on the streets and, you know, I'm out there grinding just like you guys are. So our director's AI2 or AI squared initiative discusses agility, integration, and impact. Our agility is the way that we are able to shift no matter what comes our way in order to execute the mission. Integration is in order to have new initiatives, such as working with customs in Indonesia in order to disrupt criminal threats. And our impact is how we are helping to develop higher standards within the military and higher standards and impact within the community. So our goals are, 1, to prevent terrorism and other related hostile events, to protect information and personnel, and to reduce the impact of crime along our military family and our civilian family. As I stated before, NCIS is a civilian entity, which means, again, that we are not in the military. We are regular law enforcement officers. Our agency composes of 56% of special agents. We have a smaller agency compared to someone like DEA, but we only have about 1,800 personnel that work for us worldwide. We are dedicated to diversity and inclusion. So you will see that NCIS has the highest number of women and person of color employees within federal law enforcement. We are proud of that, and we hope to continue to achieve that goal. In order to become an NCIS special agent, you must have at least a bachelor's degree from a university, be less than the age of 37, but older than the age of 21, be a US citizen, have a driver's license, and go through the phases of the background investigation, which include a medical exam, a polygraph, drug test, physical fitness test, and financial backgrounds. So our hiring process starts with the initial application, and it goes through 8 various phases before an actual offer of employment is granted. The average processing time is 12 to 16 months, but once you are in, you typically fall in love with it like I have. Our basic training includes training down at our facility in South Georgia, and it is 13 weeks of basic training and then a secondary phase of another 13 weeks with how to become an NCIS agent. We do all of our own processing of evidence, all of our own seizures. We go over courtroom testimony. We go over interdiction and drug seizures and field testing of drugs. We pretty much cover every single topic that each agent may encounter as they go along. As I mentioned, NCIS is worldwide. As you can see, we are here in Jakarta, Indonesia, but we also have offices in Kenya, Ghana, Senegal, Lithuania, Naples, Italy, obviously in the US, Colombia, Peru, Brazil, Chile, Japan, Singapore, and Australia. I'm sorry, what's your question? Okay. Okay. And then going back to our offices in the US, as you can see, most of our offices are on the East Coast of the country, being in Rhode Island, Washington, DC, Norfolk, Virginia, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and Mayport, Florida. Then we have 4 offices on the West Coast, that being the Northwest, which is in Silverdale, Washington, the Marine Corps base at Camp Pendleton, the Navy base at camp in San Diego, and the Navy base in Hawaii. Our offices in our regions are split into specific operations. So we have the Atlantic operations side and the Pacific operations side. And Indonesia falls here in the Pacific operations side. As you can see, with our last engagements, we've had a number of people from our team in Bahrain come out and make presentation about the maritime liaison. They came out of our Atlant area because Bahrain falls under that section. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have 3 different areas or several areas that we focus on. One of those being criminal investigation and operations. As I mentioned, these are our basic criminal investigations, which can include death investigations, child exploitations, internet crimes against children, sexual assault, trafficking in narcotics, and distribution. The other thing that I take pride in is our intelligence and information sharing. Typically, once we receive information that directly impacts Indonesia, we are more than willing to provide it to our law enforcement counterparts, which includes DEA, BNN, and Customs. The reason that we do that is because we know that sharing information is the only way that we will be able to prevent a catastrophe or prevent someone from importing narcotics into the country. And if we have that information, we have no problems with sharing it with you guys. We also have our cyber directorate. Our cyber directorate deals in that dark web, looking into things, enhancing the capabilities of those of us that are in the field and enhancing the information that we are able to share. And then we have our global operations. That includes our protection unit, our biometrics unit. So when you have those persons that are trafficking narcotics into Indonesia, we can provide support by doing biometrics collection. As many times as we say, a person can change their name over and over again, but their biometrics or their fingerprints do not change. So that's another way that we help and can help continue to help support you guys in your operations here. Are there any questions? Okay, then I will pass my yield the rest of my time to my DEA counterpart. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Special Agent Waiters, for your time. So we will have the dedicated Q&A session. So thank you for your delightful presentation. It's really great presentation, and I will highlight. I have highlighted some important insights from the presentation. The first is NCIS is a civilian entity. 56% is special agent, and NCIS also values the diversity and gender equality as its value. And the second, the strategic goal of NCIS are prevent terrorism and related hostile acts against the DoD or Department of Defense. And then protect critical information technologies and operating platforms from compromise by transnational criminal organization and insider threats, and reduce crime and the impact of criminal activity on Department of Defense personnel and family members. NCIS has some missions area, which includes criminal investigation and operations, intelligence and information sharing, and cyber, also global operation. Para hadirin sekalian, saya telah mencatat beberapa poin penting dari presentasi Special Agent Waiters. Yang pertama, NCIS adalah entitas sipil, bukan entitas militer, dan 56% personelnya adalah special agent atau agen khusus. Dan NCIS juga menghargai keberagaman dan kesetaraan gender. Kalau dalam bahasa Kementerian Keuangan adalah pengaruh utamaan gender. Yang kedua, tujuan strategis NCIS meliputi yang pertama mencegah terorisme dan tindakan-tindakan membahayakan terhadap Departemen Pertahanan, dan juga melindungi teknologi informasi. Kemudian yang ketiga adalah mengurangi kejahatan dan dampak aktivitas kriminal terhadap personel dan juga keluarga dari Departemen Pertahanan. Kemudian yang terakhir, NCIS mempunyai beberapa misi area yang meliputi investigasi dan operasi kriminal, intelijen dan informasi, kemudian area siber, dan juga operasi global. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move to our second speaker. I will read his bio. Our second speaker is Special Agent Andrew Xia, Special Agent of United States Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, Jakarta Country Office. He holds both bachelor and master's degree from Cornell University, US. He worked as federal law enforcement officer with the United States Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection Office of Field Operation in Texas. He assigned to the DEA's Eugene, Oregon resident office. He is also a DEA clandestine laboratory or hazmat site safety officer and nationally registered tactical emergency medical technician. During Special Agent Xia's presentation, I invite everyone to participate actively. Please don't hesitate to write down any question that come to your mind. We'll be holding a dedicated Q&A session shortly. You can also submit your question via Slido at the hailing, or you can also check on the chat box. Let's capitalize on this opportunity to tap into Special Agent Xia's expertise. Special Agent Xia, the screen is yours.
Selamat pagi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Shaw. I am a special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration of the United States. We'd like to thank Ibu Secretary, Bapak Direktorat Interdiksi, hello again, Kepala Kanwil Aceh, and numerous other friends and familiar faces. Welcome, and thank you for allowing us to speak today. I would like to begin a presentation talking about utilizing information technology in the maritime narcotics field. We're going to be talking today about briefly what is DEA. We're going to talk about why electronic evidence is important, especially in the maritime domain, how to extract some of that intelligence and then to use that for your profiles and enforcement technologies tomorrow. Let's make sure the presentation is updating. I'm on a different slide. Can you see what is DEA? Apa itu DEA?
Apakah di sana muncul slide baru dengan tulisan what is DEA? Mas Randy bisa lihat di situ?
Oh, I think the U.S. Embassy is trying to
Ya.
yeah.
Okay.
But
thank
right now
you.
we can see like I think this is the correct presentation. What is DEA?
Ya.
Great. So for DEA, we have multiple foreign offices around the world that include Asia, Europe, Africa, South America, Central America. As you can see, our office here in Jakarta is only one of several hundred around the world. What that means is within minutes, if you have information or intelligence that you would like to share with another foreign country or actionable information that is important to an investigation, potentially by working with us and other counterparts, we are able to help connect you to offices and other counterparts around the world in minutes. Part of the mission of DEA is to be able to investigate drugs that are entering, transiting, and being distributed in the United States. Part of that is to be able to stop the narcotics flow before it even hits the United States. What that means is we are able to work with our partners such as Bea Cukai, BNN, Polri in helping to enforce and strengthen your borders here in Indonesia, because that ultimately helps to strengthen our borders and to limit our flow of narcotics back at home as well. So part of that is through training and also information sharing. So what we do as DEA is we focus only on the illicit precursors and cartels and other networks that are moving drugs. So what that also incorporates is money laundering and any of the other types of communications that these organizations utilize. One of these success stories was when we were able to share information and work together with both BNN and Bea Cukai in February of this year. That resulted, like we had previously talked about, in the seizure of multiple hundreds of kilograms of methamphetamine from a DAO that had originated in the Middle East. Even after that seizure, we were able to work together with Indonesian law enforcement to exploit and understand some of that information technology that the boat and crew were using to help network and make greater patterns out of these shipping routes and smuggling routes that are being used to exploit and bring drugs to Indonesia. Also, we work with Polri, BNN, as well as Bea Cukai in working to dismantle and investigate the criminal syndicates that are moving the methamphetamine from the Golden Triangle region, which is primarily seen in these Chinese tea packages as their signature, from the Golden Triangle area through Thailand, Malaysia, and then over across the border to Aceh, all the way down to Sumatra and to Java. So what we are helping to do is we're helping to bridge that gap between countries, networks, and also technologies to greater strengthen your ability to protect your own borders. So some of the things that we can offer, especially with the greater cooperation with your allied law enforcement partners, are analyzing cell phone numbers, helping to gather intelligence from various sources, coordinating that international cooperation, helping to plan some of these operations, and then also giving you greater access to databases and information that will strengthen your ability to understand and target these transnational criminal organizations. But like it says, there has to be greater and increased bilateral cooperation. So what that means is we are sharing and also receiving information together. We are also here to provide training assistance and to strengthen your ability to conduct your jobs and roles more efficiently. Part of that is by being able to partner with countries such as we are right now, and also to provide information on money laundering, marijuana eradication, targeting, and also specific information topics that are relevant to you. So now we're going to talk about some best practices for evidence handling. So these are real photos that I actually took when I was in Oregon of a marijuana field. So I'm using these as an example of a way to document phones and other electronic devices and why it's important for not only analysts, but also the actual field investigators who are out there on the ground collecting the evidence, because this is able to help us connect people and patterns to target future syndicates. So we want to start with basically the overall picture. When we're looking at this weeks or months or even years later, the overall picture will help us to understand where we are and what we're looking at. So as you're collecting the evidence, continue to focus in closer. And now we can see that we're actually in the car and there is potentially electronic evidence in there that may be of interest to us. As we get even closer, we're able to see that there's multiple cell phones that were inside of the vehicle. Now, why is this important? With these cell phones, we can not only potentially locate individuals who were there at the marijuana grow, we can also look at other things like their connections, who are they talking to, their finances, and a bunch of other things. But these electronic devices are part of that integral, important evidence collection process. Now, what's also important is we're able to tie in names or documents to these electronic devices when you collect them. Again, this is important not only for the field investigator, but for the analysts and the targeting that comes down the road later on post-seizure. So here's a quick chart that breaks down how and the best practice for being able to seize and secure an electronic Apple device. Depending on if it's unlocked or if it's locked, here are some suggestions that you can use to be able to secure and hopefully exploit those electronic devices later on. If you can't get a good photo of it now, I will provide my contact information at the end of the slide. You can always ask for a copy of the charts. In this example, this is for Android phones and devices. If the device is off, don't turn it back on because it will actually clear a lot of the memory. Again, these are best practices that can be distributed to the field level investigator or even the inspector on the ground, because that is where the critical information technology chain begins. So you ask, what devices are we looking for, especially in the maritime realm? GPSs and satellite phones. They come in many different sizes, shapes, and manufacturers. So I can't show you all of them today, but basically, be on the lookout for these devices. They're usually carried anywhere from large vessels, large cargo vessels, to small fishing vessels as well. Why? They have to understand where they're going to rendezvous for a ship-to-ship transfer, or where they're going to meet to pick up and transfer those drugs. They have to communicate, and they have to know where they're going. So even if it's a small boat, they have to have communicated some way or somehow. So be on the lookout for these devices. Additionally, for example, in a wooden traditional boat, you will still see radios or some sort of other electronic devices for communication. These are especially important even if they are turned off. With these devices, we're able to hopefully extract information on what radio channels they had used, possibly where they had gone, waypoints or other navigation items. So do not discount these, and if you are not familiar with them, ask for help. We have lots of people that are able to provide information on what kind of devices they are and how to get that information out for analysis. Also, what's important, especially with the older model of radios or GPS systems, when you take a photo, the photos are important because where the position of the dials or the buttons are important as well. That will give us a clue as to what radio channels potentially they were using right before the device was turned off. Now, once you get those devices back into the hands of an analyst or your electronic evidence team, what are they looking for? They're going to be looking for breadcrumbs or tracks or waypoints that are able to help piece together the trajectory or the path of that maritime vessel. For example, when a vessel is looking to meet for a ship-to-ship transfer, they have to know where they're going. They have to know where the position is going to be. Even if they're not communicating without any electronic device, they still have to find where that position is. If it's by land objects or other landmarks in the water, they still are looking for things. Utilize these items in your analysis and your evidence collection. When we talk about cell phones and satellite phones and GPSs, a lot of times you're also going to find the electronic identifier, so the electronic mobile identification number, and also the SIM card number that will be connecting to the networks. Those are important because we can utilize those to look for other ways that either that SIM card or that device has been used for a different phone number, or maybe a different device or location in a different network. Together, we're able to piece together those elements to hopefully expand our understanding of what that network is, who is involved, and where that phone had been before. For example, if that phone had been in Malaysia, and then previously we have information that it may have been in the Middle East, there's a good possibility that that phone is involved in a syndicate or network that is maybe transiting drugs from both Malaysia or the Middle East. We can use that information to expand again your understanding of that network and how to target them for tomorrow. So now let's talk about building the intelligence profile for the future, utilizing the evidence and the information that you had seized. As was previously discussed, Indonesia is a wonderful country of lots of water. So with that, you have a large area of coastline, shores, and other waterways to be able to enforce and control. That's a big difficulty with being able to understand everything that is entering your country or even leaving. Again, I used to work with the US Customs and Border Protection on the land border with Mexico. I had to deal with miles and miles of cars and to try and find that one car that was smuggling drugs or people. Here, you have miles and miles of coastline, and it's your job to figure out where those drugs are and which of those boats is carrying it. 99% of the boats out there are legitimate fishermen or other cargo. But your job, how do you figure out that small percentage of boats that are carrying actual drugs? That's where you can use the information that you're getting from those electronic devices and previous seizures to try and map out routes, locations, and common areas that you are seeing to be able to target and place more focus on those areas. For example, right now, being that it's October, based on previous seizures and trajectories, we know that this is probably going to be the start of a few months of traditional boats coming from the Middle East. Why? Because the weather patterns and the seas are often less choppy and dangerous that the boats can travel on. Knowing that, it might be worthwhile focusing more efforts on what boats, what other information are we being able to see from our region, from around the office that you're at, to be able to look for anomalies or other things that aren't part of their normal pattern. Are there fishing boats that are going out extra early or are being different than what you would normally see in your area? That's the important part to start looking for now. As I was talking about legitimate traffic, here is a quick snapshot from an open source website of all the legitimate traffic that is transiting in and around Indonesia. Part of that challenge is to be able to, again, pick out which of these vessels is either smuggling drugs or some other contraband into your area. And as you can see, Aceh is an extremely important part of the Indonesian archipelago because a lot of legitimate traffic goes right by Aceh. The problem is, which of those boats, again, is the one carrying drugs? And that is where the information from previous seizures plays in. Together, we're able to hopefully integrate what companies, what patterns, what times, and what cargo are commonly being used to potentially smuggle those drugs. Again, we're now looking for those anomalies. So what does it mean by anomaly detection? What are we looking for? We're looking for what we call an outlier, right? So if you have information that normal cargo, normal ships, normal containers, and normal vessels travel this route and commonly always have, for example, GPS contact all the way through around Aceh. However, if you see a vessel that all of a sudden turns off its AIS, turns off its GPS, and goes dark for several hours, is that normal? Is that common around that area? And if not, maybe that's something that we want to keep an eye on. Maybe that's something that might be an outlier. When we talk about the Middle East syndicates transiting drugs from the Makran coast in Pakistan, going south over to Indonesia, we're looking at a lot of the patterns and traffic that previous boats had taken. We're also trying to compare it to what are the normal maritime routes for legitimate traffic. As you can see, let's make sure the slides are updating. We'll restart, it's not showing.
It's not okay.
This one.
We should put something like this on here. Yes. Yeah.
And apologize for the delay. One moment. Sorry, still working through technical difficulties, but while we're doing that, if you remember, based on that traffic map that I had shown, there are lots of common traffic routes that go through from Africa to around Aceh over to the port of Singapore. You also have a lot of legitimate traffic that goes south from the Magelang coast over past the south tip of India, past Sri Lanka, and then over to, again, the tip of Aceh. So what we're looking for are those boats that are trying to blend in with that legitimate cargo. And the difficulty there is we don't know which one is carrying drugs or not. However, we can use previous profiles from seizures to look for, again, anomalies. And what we're going to do is we are looking to try and identify those outliers, those boats that are not quite, that don't quite fit the pattern, that don't quite have the same trends or profiles or cargo that we typically see during that time of year. So as they're still working out the technical difficulties, one thing to consider, maybe for the question and answer portion, is do you normally see a dark area or an area around Aceh or your office that is without AIS or GPS signal? Or is it typical for boats to lose that signal around Aceh? Now, if there is, okay, great, you at least are aware of that. If it isn't, if most ships have continuous AIS or GPS signals around North Sumatra, and one vessel loses that signal, is there a way to then track or identify which vessel that is? For example, after, let's say, 14 hours, a boat does not have AIS signal and is not transmitting its location, are you able to detect or identify that vessel with your current technology and systems that are in place? Again, these are questions and things to consider, given that these are the ways that smugglers and other people are trying to disguise and hide their activities in your region. It's even more challenging when you're looking at how the boats and drugs are coming across from Malaysia to Sumatra and to the Aceh region. For example, by speedboat, if I remember correctly, it could be only maybe an hour or two. Oh, there we go. An hour or two to get across to the Strait of Malacca by speedboat. I feel a little bit longer if you're talking about fishing boats, if I remember correctly, all right? So is there a way to identify those vessels? Is there a way to locate and seize those potential items that are coming across? They may not be narcotics, they may be other illicit cargo. But again, these are things and common trends that we have seen. As an example, here is one that I was recently able to find based on open source technology that went around Aceh. Again, I don't know if this is normal for your region, but just something to keep in mind. So this particular vessel had a AIS as it went around the northern part of Banda Aceh, and then it lost signal for about 14 hours until. And so something to keep in mind is that normal, or are they trying to hide something? 14 hours is quite a long time. Could they have stopped and done a ship-to-ship transfer? Could they have just dropped off a load in the ocean with the tracker on it? We're not sure. This could have been just legitimate cargo also. But again, is it normal for what your area of responsibility is. So some other sources, open source information that I would like to share, especially for vessels. You may be aware of Marine Traffic, Vessel Finder, shipfinder.co. These are open source, not necessarily sponsored or recommended per se. These are just options that we are providing. These are able to track AIS and vessels around the world. Some of them have various subscriptions that offer more information, but they are helpful to be able to look at what are anomalies and what's normal around your area. Is there a way to ingest this information into your new fusion center, right? So just something to consider, something to add value to your projects. Also, for cargo and cargo ships and containers, here are some other databases that might help add value. Panjiva is a subscription-based website that is able to tell you information about import and export details on commercial shipments worldwide. And this is able to, again, hopefully add value to what you already have officially, but this may hopefully add some extra data points to what you're already looking at. Sea Rates is another website that is able to track the location of containers, freight, and other sea cargo containers by its container number. And then the last website on there, is able to trace containers and find their planned and actual movements. Again, hopefully this is able to add to what information you are officially receiving that you can then see beyond those official reports and to track anomalies or discrepancies, right, with what they may have filed officially with the government of Indonesia, and then what public and open source data is actually saying. That, again, is hoping to identify those anomalies and outliers that may contain narcotics. So to wrap up, it's important that we are able to share and improve our knowledge, because by doing that, we're able to create and use that information in a greater capacity together. By sharing information between counterparts, both domestically and internationally, we don't all have the answers to these threats, but together, the information that we have and can share is able to make and improve our operations and the security of your borders even stronger. We're able to use information technology to provide background and details that will hopefully predict the future and other important investigative details that will help us to identify those syndicates and networks that are bringing drugs and other illicit activities and materials to our country. So I applaud you and I thank you for the time today. And I wish that we do not stop here, but that we are able to continue to share information, expand our knowledge, and to be able to stop some of these syndicates and illicit activities together. So I provide my information up there. My partner, Justin Hussey, is also here in our office. And then Mr. Victor Hutapea with his phone number as well for our local investigator. So again, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for what you do. As a former Customs and Border Protection officer myself, I applaud you and understand the challenges that you have with identifying and stopping those illicit traffickers. Thank you.
Thank you, Special Agent Xia. Many thanks for your enlightening presentation. I'm confident that everyone here has walked away with valuable insights. I've pointed out key takeaways from the presentation. The first is DEA works with Bea Cukai, Polri, and other institutions to dismantle and investigate the crime in Indonesia and other countries. In Indonesia, it includes Sumatra and Java and beyond. DEA also provides investigation assistance and training through bilateral cooperation. And then we need to build intelligence profile from evidence and information that we've gathered, including from email, GPS tracks, navigation tools, radio, and other sources, to detect the pattern of the company, time, cargo companies on drug smuggling modes. And then we also have to detect routes, anomaly, and outliers that may contain narcotics. And also, it's a rather a question from Special Agent Shah about the case of AI signal loss around the North Sumatra. Special Agent Shah asked us, is this normal about the lost signal in North Sumatra, and asked if we have the technology to detect the appearance of the vessel after it lost for several hours. Hadirin sekalian, beberapa hal penting yang sudah saya catat dari pemaparan Special Agent Shah adalah DIE bersama Bea Cukai, Polri, dan institusi penegakan hukum lainnya membongkar dan menyelidiki kejahatan di Indonesia dan negara-negara lain. Di Indonesia mencakup wilayah Sumatera dan Jawa pada khususnya dan daerah-daerah lainnya. DIA juga memberikan asistensi, investigasi, dan pelatihan, terutama melalui kerjasama bilateral. Selanjutnya, kita perlu membangun profil intelijen melalui bukti dan informasi yang telah kita dapatkan, termasuk melalui data-data IMEI, GPS, melalui data dari peralatan navigasi dan radio dan sumber-sumber lainnya. Kita juga perlu mengecek data-data outlier, terutama dari rute-rute yang memiliki anomali, karena dimungkinkan dari rute-rute tersebut adanya penyelundupan narkotika. Yang terakhir, ada pertanyaan juga dari Special Agency mengenai hilangnya sinyal AIS di sekitar Sumatera Utara, yang mana kasusnya adalah biasanya ini terjadi hilang sinyal selama beberapa jam sampai beberapa belas jam, dan kemudian sinyal itu muncul. Pertanyaannya adalah apakah kejadian ini juga sering dialami oleh Bea Cukai, dan apakah Bea Cukai memiliki tools atau peralatan yang memadai untuk mendeteksi hilangnya sinyal dan kemunculan kembali sinyal AIS tersebut. Thank you once again, Special Agent Shah, and ladies and gentlemen, let's proceed to our last speaker, Ms. Fiona Douglas is First Secretary of Indonesia and Timor-Leste Australian Border Force. She started her career with the Australian Customs Service in Western Australia in 2004. Ms. Fiona worked at Perth International Airport and the International Mail Facility before transferring to headquarters in Canberra in 2007. She commenced her posting as First Secretary AABF on 13 July 2021. In her 18-year career, Ms. Fiona has worked across many different roles, including operations, policy strategy, and has worked on several projects and task forces for both Customs and Australian Border Force. As Ms. Douglas shares her insights, I encourage each of you to engage actively. Feel free to jot down any question that arise. A dedicated Q&A session is just around the corner. So, Ms. Douglas, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Pat Rendy, for that very warm welcome. Good morning, everyone. Fiona Douglas from the Australian Border Force, currently based in Jakarta, but today I actually join you from Batam. So thank you very much to the Bea Cukai Aceh Regional Office for inviting the ABF to be part of this discussion today in your webinar on narcotics law enforcement sharing of Aceh Customs, and to discuss optimising law enforcement through information technology. In my presentation today, I'll talk to you about how we use information technology as part of our layered approach to border management, but specifically focusing on narcotics law enforcement in the airport. Are you able to share the presentation? Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So back in 1993, the World Customs Organization, together with the International Air Transport Association, or IATA, developed the first advanced passenger information guidelines, which are continuously updated. The guidelines have enabled customs administrations to pursue more effective risk management practices using advanced passenger information, or API, and passenger name record, or PNR data. And particularly as air travel has become increasingly affordable, we have now seen ever-increasing volumes of travellers. Following the heightened threat environment of the early 2000s, passenger control initiatives aimed to strengthen the capacity of customs administrations to prevent the movement of foreign terrorist fighters and other individuals supporting terrorism across international borders. But it also assists us in tackling the ongoing threat of drugs and illicit activities such as smuggling. Customs passenger assessment functions are being increasingly driven by the use of pre-arrival and pre-departure information as we look for more effective and reliable ways to facilitate legitimate travellers, while at the same time identifying those who seek to pose a risk to our borders. Better technology and improvements in airline booking systems has presented opportunities for border agencies to access timely and detailed passenger data based on booking information, rather than just simply relying on advanced passenger information, which is restricted to passport level information. The use of API and PNR within administrations improves and develops risk analysis and targeting methods for effective passenger control. It enhances our ability to target security concerns, and it also streamlines border clearance processes for travellers. Next slide, please. The physical inspection of a traveller and their travel documents is nowadays only a small part of border controls for passengers travelling by air. So many border control processes rely on secure electronic data, some being provided at the time the passenger buys a ticket, and some at the time the passenger boards the aircraft. The flow of passenger-related information from airlines to border control authorities can be divided into two main streams. First, we have the advanced passenger information, or API, which is generated at check-in. And then we have passenger name record, or PNR data, which is generated during the booking or the purchase of an airline ticket. API has proven to be a very useful tool for customs administrations that have implemented customer targeting as part of their risk assessment suite of tools. And PNR information has become a key information source which customs administrations can use in their passenger risk assessment processes. PNR and API together provide a customs administrations with an enhanced means for preventing and detecting smuggling of all types of illicit goods, while also being a more effective means for detecting other risks. The ABF, and Australian Customs Service before it, has been using PNR data for risk assessment practices since 1997. And in the era of heightened security concerns, the additional travel information provided by PNR becomes critically important in securing our borders. Automation of the transport industry's booking and ticketing processes has provided the opportunity to gather and use API and PNR to support passenger assessment and clearance processes. And we rely on airlines to provide accurate and timely information to assist in the risk assessment of passengers. On-time transmission of the data is particularly important as it is the first step in our risk assessment process. So what is PNR and why is it important? PNR is a unique, rich data set that provides invaluable intelligence that strengthens our capability for identifying and responding to travellers that pose a threat to the Australian border in relation to serious transnational crime and terrorism. There are data elements in a PNR that only come through that channel. This information may be vital in connecting together with other intelligence to provide a better indication of the traveller's intent of entering or departing a country. Next slide, please. So when we're using PNR data in risk assessment, there are some important points to consider. Firstly, we need to understand the PNR data, its origins and variances that exist. For example, the origin of the PNR data, the airline might not have control of all that data. Data originates from various sources, and it's not always the airline creating PNR that provides that information. For example, code share flights or service providers such as travel agents. And the PNR may also be missing information. It might not be the booking information held by the airline, and not all airlines collect the same data or store it in the same format. Next slide, please. So this slide lists the fields that are available across both PNR and API data. There is structured and widely available data fields, and then there's unstructured or partially available fields. All are individually valuable. However, they become of greater value when compared to other data sets or when considered as part of a pattern of behaviour. Take PNR itinerary origin as an example. This can be compared to visa residency information, cargo information, API check-in information, money movements, and information declared on customs declarations. And with historical information, you have an even larger set of data on which to verify, and you can begin to notice changes. Next slide, please. So the benefits of PNR data are proven. PNR data ultimately assists in the facilitation of low-risk travellers by identifying unknown travellers who display similar characteristics to known traveller threats. PNR, when joined with other data sets, provides a more holistic intelligence picture of a passenger's intent of travel. Behavioural analysis is key. Consider the behaviour of the traveller as a whole and not just their single movement. Consider the entity in the context and their interactions with other transactional databases. For example, other law enforcement holdings, financial data, or cargo data. However, intervention and results data are most important. You can only improve when you define a result and then both measure your activity and outcomes of your activity. In Australia, we separate real-time support from our targeting. So the dissemination issues of time give us more flexibility. And it's important to invest in your officers as intelligence analysts when appropriate. Next slide, please. So in the ABF's Passenger Analysis Unit, or as we call it, the National Border Targeting Centre, there are three main functions. The first is our Border Watch Office, which responds to industry and public allegations. We then have a Tactical Intelligence section, which provides real-time 24/7 information and intelligence support. And finally, we have our Target Assessment section. And this is the section that undertakes threat assessment of travellers referred to them through our risk assessment processes. These entities are assessed as a threat and then referred for examination when the passenger arrives in Australia. The ABF's National Border Targeting Centre operates in real time. That's because aircraft arrive in real time. Our operations are 24/7. Therefore, our assessment and support capability must also be 24/7. Our Passenger Analysis Unit has developed over the years into Passenger Target Assessment, which also is now part of the National Border Targeting Centre. We assess all matches with a view to decide what to refer for intervention and what not to refer. And currently, we look at about 15% of all travellers arriving into Australia. Next slide, please. So I'll now talk about how we have incorporated PNR and API into our border management practices through a layered approach to border management. Next slide, please. Okay. So this diagram is an overview of the conceptual model for an layered approach to border management. Australia's border management approach includes a number of different layers to detect and prevent people who pose a threat to the Australian community from travelling to and entering Australia. Passengers seeking to travel to Australia are checked in at various stages in their journey and also while they stay and enter Australia. So in brief, the layers in our model include integration of the Department of Home Affairs intelligence-led risk-based approach to border management, Australia's universal visa system, where every non-citizen travelling to Australia must hold a visa or some other authority to travel to Australia. We have the Advanced Passenger Processing System, which operates at check-in overseas to verify a traveller's authority to enter Australia and provides directions to airlines on whether or not that person can travel to Australia. We also have a network of airline liaison officers at key international airports overseas that support airlines operating flights to Australia. And then we have immigration and customs clearance and referral processing at airports and seaports on arrival into Australia. Most of the checks undertaken in this layered approach are non-intrusive to travellers. These layers ensure travellers are appropriately authorised, and we can identify people of interest for intervention early in their travel journey. And having a layered approach like this means that our clients can be checked against our risk and alert systems and our analytical tools at each stage of their pathway as we work across the border continuum, so pre-border, at border and post-border, to facilitate, regulate and apply in law enforcement approaches to support legitimate travel. Next slide, please. So in the ABF, we target many threats at the border. This includes the threats from transnational crime. And criminal syndicates can be involved in the importation of border-controlled drugs, the trafficking of illicit firearms, money laundering, identity theft, smuggling of tobacco, revenue evasion, and also human trafficking. These syndicates now operate with a degree of sophistication that we haven't seen before. They are increasingly well networked and operate across multiple crime markets. Security at the border, however, cannot come at the expense of facilitation of legitimate trade and travel, but rather we must manage the risks and strengthen security to provide an environment that also enhances economic prosperity. To do this, the ABF focuses on the continual incorporation and increased use of technology to identify risks at the border. This allows us to better utilise our limited resources to target high-risk travellers and high-risk cargo consignments, while facilitating trade and travel for those that pose little or no risk. Our National Border Targeting Centre, it's specialised and multidisciplinary targeting and threat assessment capability. And it works to detect potential threats to the border and the Australian community by evaluating matches against intelligence-informed profiles, alerts, and data analytics across the traveller, cargo, and international mail environments. An example of the activities undertaken by the National Border Targeting Centre is receiving the passenger manifest ahead of a passenger's arrival and running automated checks of data from PNI and API against alert lists. And this allows us to identify travellers before they arrive in Australia, and we can alert our officers to people of concern. The effective use of data from PNR for these purposes also depends on effective profile management. And to reduce risk further, we also have the automated check, not only of alerts, but also intelligence analysis and risk data ahead of arrival to identify people of concern. Next slide, please. So based on the assessment of PNR and API data as I've discussed so far. The ABF then selects travellers who potentially pose a threat to the Australian border for further intervention, such as the examination of their documents and baggage. But this is not the only method that we use. We still rely on traveller risk assessment and observing and questioning travellers to identify risk indicators. This is because information technology and data can only tell us so much. We still need to rely on the skill and intuition of our officers. Next slide, please. So when we're conducting a traveller assessment, we observe, we question, we analyse all information we have at hand, and we identify risk indicators or clusters of indicators. This is not a linear process. Information collected during one part of an assessment can then inform other parts of our risk assessment. For example, you might observe a particular behaviour that you would then question the passenger about. Similarly, in analysing information such as PNR, you might think something is not quite right that you would then question the passenger about when they arrive. The ultimate aim of traveller assessment is to identify all of the indicators and determine what risk that person poses to the border. Next slide, please. So when we're conducting an assessment, these are some of the points that we can focus on. We can observe the passenger, including their behaviour and appearance. We can analyse information about the passenger from PNR information or from their airline ticket. Do they have other travel documents, such as secondary identification documents, visa documents, or other paperwork that may support their reason for travel? Does the amount of baggage that they have or the types of clothes that they have match their reason for travel? Is their baggage and the amount of clothing that they have with them appropriate for their length of stay? Next slide, please. So this is another summary of the information collected in the PNR data. There are the reservation elements that are created at the time of booking, and then you have the departure control system elements that are created when the passenger checks in for their flight. You have the reservation elements, which include the name of the passenger, the date and time the booking was made, how the ticket was paid for, their itinerary details, if they used a travel agent, their contact details, and the included baggage allowance. And then at check-in, additional data will be created, including what seat number they're assigned, what check-in sequence number they were, when they boarded the aircraft, the number of checked bags they have, the weight and the bag tag details, and also details of anyone else that they are travelling with. Next slide, please. So for Australia, some of the traditional indicators, especially for narcotics smuggling, are short stays, booking a ticket shortly before travel, paid for the ticket in cash, one-way travel, a different country of birth or country of citizenship compared to the country that they departed from. This can also be described as simple indicators of elevated risk, but they will present as outliers differently across different regions and different traveller cohorts. Australia's geographical location requires most travellers to arrive and depart by air. This provides us the benefit of time in relation to inbound air movements. Most flights are a minimum of 6 to 8 hours from higher risk ports. This allows time from the receipt of the last PNR data, which ultimately is the most accurate, to then risk assess passengers and arrange the appropriate intervention of those persons when they arrive in Australia. Next slide, please. So this is a copy of a PNR for a traveller who was intercepted carrying illicit drugs to Australia. And there are some important pieces of information within this PNR that you would like to question the passenger about. It's probably a little bit hard for everyone to see on the screen, but this traveller had no checked-in baggage, despite having a 30-kilo baggage allowance. The passenger had a Malaysian passport, but they boarded the flight in Bangkok, Thailand. The ticket was only purchased 4 days before travel, and it is a one-way ticket. Next slide, please. So we can get some very useful information from the passenger's booking and ticket information to inform our risk assessment processes. The flight booking will have the method of payment. So did the passenger pay for their ticket with cash or a credit card, or pay through their travel agent? Or did a third party pay for their ticket? And if so, did that person also travel with the passenger? A common indicator of risks to the border for drug smugglers is that someone else paid for their ticket, but they cannot provide any details about that person. And if the passenger cannot provide information about how they paid for their ticket, or the method that they used for payment is different to what is stated in the PNR, this can also be an indicator of risk and definitely something that requires further investigation. Is the date of purchase on the ticket the same and consistent with their story? Smugglers will often purchase their ticket only a few days before travel, and it can be an indicator of risk. But similarly, someone travelling for a funeral or a family emergency will also book their ticket at short notice. The location in which the ticket was purchased is also another area that we can focus on. As with the PNR example that I just showed you, the ticket was purchased in Malaysia, but the traveller boarded the flight in Thailand. And this is something that you can ask the passenger about. Is there an explanation for why it is different? And does that explanation make sense? Next slide, please. And then we can also look at their routing. Is it logical and does it make sense? Sometimes routing is still a little bit difficult at the moment due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and travel between certain places can take a longer route that is often a little bit out of the way compared to prior to the pandemic. But equally, the passenger would be able to provide you with an explanation if that was legitimately the case. And travellers can also disguise their routing by purchasing different tickets with different PNRs. And this is also a tactic that is often used by foreign terrorist fighters. They'll purchase a ticket to Turkey or to Lebanon, and then purchase a separate ticket to travel into conflict zones in Syria. We then have the third country point of origin. So as I've already discussed in the PNR example, the Malaysian traveller who purchased his ticket in Malaysia but departed from Bangkok. Then there's also high-risk ports of origin. For example, Nigerian passengers starting their trip from Ghana. Because West African countries such as Nigeria are a very high-risk source country for narcotics. Next slide, please. And we should also be aware of a traveller with little or no baggage. We can ask, how long are they travelling for? What is the purpose of their travel? Is the amount of baggage that they have with them appropriate for their length of travel? Yes, a business traveller on a 2-day trip just for meetings would only have a small amount of baggage, but equally they should be able to explain this. Would the same amount of baggage make sense for someone that was travelling for a 1-month holiday? Is their baggage new, or is there evidence of previous travel, such as bag tags? And this can be used in questioning the traveller to verify their story. Is their baggage suspicious in some way? Is there evidence of tampering or goods concealed within the lining of the suitcase? This is a common method of concealment for drugs, and that's to hide it within the structure of the suitcase or within items in their baggage, such as toiletries or statues. What is the weight of their baggage compared to their baggage allowance? Most passengers travelling for holidays will have an included baggage allowance. And for example, if this allowance is about 30 kilos, most people will travel with close to 30 kilos. So do they have an excessive amount of baggage? You know, this could be an indicator that they're carrying illicit goods and they've purchased additional baggage just to carry those goods. Next slide, please. And when we're searching a passenger's baggage, we might identify concealment indicators. So, for example, the weight. Does the empty suitcase feel unusually heavy? The size of their luggage? Are there any odours? For example, is there an unusual or unexpected odour, such as the smell of glue, which may have been used to conceal goods inside suitcases? Or, for example, the smell of coffee, which may have been rubbed all over the goods in an effort to put off the detector dogs. Is there signs of tampering? Does it look like the baggage or items in the passenger's baggage have been tampered with, such as missing screws or edges that have not been properly aligned? Next slide, please. And a key outcome of all of these elements of passenger risk assessment is to establish the bona fides of the traveller. We want to be certain that the person is who they say they are and they are travelling for the reasons that they said. And when we're establishing a passenger's bona fides, we should consider, can the passenger's stated occupation support their reason for travel? For example, a person who is unemployed, saying that they're going to travel for a month, they have no savings in their bank account and no pre-booked accommodation, would raise suspicion regarding their proposed activities or how they intend to support themselves while travelling. Does their occupation support their reason for travel? For example, a business traveller who says that they're attending a conference. Does their occupation match the conference? And alternatively, would the traveller's occupation allow them to travel regularly or holiday for long periods of time? Or if they only worked part-time or a low-paying job, can they afford that level of travel? A really common one when someone's lying about their occupation. Did they spell it correctly on their customs declaration? If you can't spell your occupation correctly, it's a good risk indicator that they're not telling the truth or that they're overstating their occupation. Does their physical appearance support their occupation? For example, a traveller who says they're a lawyer but has calloused and dirty hands that looks more like they might be a labourer. They're wearing a suit that doesn't fit properly, or they can't articulate the type of law that they practice. These are all indicators that the passenger could be providing misleading information and where further investigation and questioning would be required. Next slide, please. So what do we mean by clusters of indicators? We mean a group of factors that when all assessed together give a greater indication of risk than if those factors occurred in isolation. It is the information gathered from all of the points that I have discussed today. A common set of indicators for illicit activities, especially drug smuggling, can include the passenger who purchased their ticket last minute, or that someone has purchased it for them at last minute, and a ticket paid in cash. Passenger has little or no baggage. Their ticket has an unusual routing and includes high-risk countries for illicit drugs. The passenger has little or no knowledge of their destination or what they'll be doing while they're there. We have intercepted many drug smugglers who say that they're coming to Australia for a month, but all that they can tell us about Australia is that they want to see the Sydney Harbour Bridge. They're showing signs of being nervous and are even unable to answer basic questions. Next slide, please. So I'll finish my presentation today with some case studies on drug detections in Australia through our airports. So the first one here is cocaine concealed within toiletries detected in December 2019. So ABF officers at Perth International Airport allegedly located several kilograms of cocaine concealed inside bottles of toiletries in the baggage of a Portuguese woman. Next slide, please. And this one was pseudoephedrine concealed inside food packaging in August 2019. This one was a 35-year-old Australian man who was arrested and charged at Melbourne International Airport after ABF officers found approximately 13 kilos of pseudoephedrine in his baggage. ABF officers selected the man for a baggage examination after he arrived in Melbourne on a flight from Vietnam. During the baggage examination, we located several packages labelled as food products. The packages were opened and found to contain a white crystalline substance, and further testing of the substance gave a positive result for pseudoephedrine, a precursor commonly used in the manufacture of methamphetamine or ice. Next question. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Ms. Fiona Douglas, for your engaging presentation. The depth of your knowledge on passenger analysis truly enriched our understanding, and I'm certain that each attendee has found your insights incredibly valuable. And also, I've emphasized crucial points from the presentation. The first is API, or Advanced Passenger Information, which has developed by WCO and IATA since 1993, and Passenger Name Record, or PNR, improves risk analysis and targeting methods for effective passenger control, which includes enhanced means of preventing and detecting smuggling of all types of illicit goods, especially narcotics. Second, Australian Border Force implements layered approach to border management intelligence, which includes pre-application and application process. Pre-application includes next generation border analysis and enhanced analytics, and application process, check-in, after check-in, and arrival, utilizes visa and passport database, PNR, API, TRIPS, SmartGate, iAuthenticate, and other database and IT-based interventions. The third is focus point on passenger analysis are the traveler behavior and appearance, flight booking and ticketing information, additional information such as visa and paperwork, and also the baggage. Para hadirin sekalian, saya telah mencatat beberapa poin penting dari kolega kita dari Australian Border Force, Ms. Fiona Douglas. Yang pertama, APA yang telah dikembangkan oleh WCO dan IATA sejak tahun 1993 dan PNR meningkatkan analisis risiko dan metode penargetan untuk kontrol penumpang yang efektif, termasuk cara mencegah dan mendeteksi penyelundupan semua jenis barang terlarang, terkhusus narkotika. Australian Border Force telah menerapkan analisis intelijen berlapis yang meliputi pre-application and application process, di mana pre-application termasuk menggunakan next generation border analysis dan enhanced analytics, sedangkan application process termasuk check-in, after check-in, dan kedatangan, ini menggunakan visa dan paspor database, PNR, API, TRIPS, SmartGate, iAuthenticate, dan database lainnya, serta intervensi-intervensi berbasis teknologi lainnya. Kemudian yang terakhir, titik fokus analisis penumpang adalah perilaku dan penampilan penumpang atau wisatawan, pemesanan dan informasi tiket, kemudian informasi tambahan seperti visa dan dokumen, serta yang terakhir adalah bagasi atau barang bawaan penumpang. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to give a round of applause to all of the speakers. Thank you very much for your engaging presentation and relatable topics. I know that everyone is really eager to ask questions and have a conversation with the speakers. You may start raising your hand now, but before we proceed to Q&A session, let's enjoy a video presented by Indonesian Customs and Excise officers.
keuangan kini bertekad maju dengan nilai yang ada. Integritas tinggi, mari junjung bersama profesionalisme dalam melaksanakan tugas negara. Sinergikan langkah kita, berikan pelayanan yang terbaik untuk bangsa ini. Jangan ragu, terus melangkah dan berkarya menuju kesempurnaan. Integritas tinggi, mari junjung bersama profesionalisme dalam melaksanakan tugas negara. Sinergikan langkah kita, berikan pelayanan yang terbaik untuk bangsa ini. Jangan ragu, terus melangkah dan berkarya menuju kesempurnaan.
Wow, I really am surprised that my colleagues have such a great talent, not only on the field, but also in the recording studio. So this is your time to ask question. I already seen some question on slide 2, and also don't hesitate to ask directly in Bahasa Indonesia too, because we have some interpreter here that can interpret your questions. But first, I would like to invite Mr. Terry Zakir Muslim to ask his question. Mr. Terry is Kasubdit DIN. The screen is yours, Mr. Terry.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Randy. Ini saya terima kasih ya, resume dan lain-lainnya cukup komunikatif dan secara substansi cukup dapat dimengerti gitu, dan translatornya atau penerjemahannya secara law enforcement version. Jadi mungkin bisa dicoba nanti Pak Randy kalau memang mau pindah bisa ke P2 atau ke DIN ya, karena sudah cukup bisa meresum dengan baik bagaimana klausul-klausul, karena kita perlu tenaga komunikasi dua arah untuk menggunakan dua bahasa atau mungkin multi bahasa ya, karena perlu untuk supaya kita gampang untuk mengerti terminologi internasional. Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua, tidak kalah pentingnya dan sangat penting, terima kasih pihak atau tim sekretariat dan tim KSI yang sudah bekerja sama menyelenggarakan forum webinar ini. Kemudian berikutnya terima kasih kepada Pak Direktur saya, Pak Sarif, yang tadi sudah memberikan secara brief tentang drug situation untuk Indonesia. Saya langsung saja, mungkin saya pergunakan bahasa supaya cepat, gampang dimengerti, dan toh juga nanti ada translatornya ya Pak Randy ya. Yang pertama, introduce me, I'm Terry, I'm Mr. Sarif Squad. at International Interdiksi Narkotika Direktorat. Yang pertama saya address untuk Brandy dari NCIS, yaitu terkait dengan mekanisme dan strategi penggunaan teknologi dalam kerangka bahwa illicit drug itu masuk di dalam bagian dari transnational organized crime yang tadi menjadi salah satu subjek yang memang dikelola oleh NCIS. Nah, apakah keabsolutan dari penggunaan teknologi atau tetap dikombinasikan dengan conventional surveillance atau penelusuran secara konvensional atau secara fisik atau manual? Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua adalah bagaimana sepengetahuan Anda tentang skema dark web di dalam perdagangan gelap narkotika, baik terkait sindikasinya maupun terkait dengan transportasinya untuk barang-barang narkotika. Kemudian yang kedua saya address untuk Andy, my colleague from DEA. Yang menarik adalah tadi dikatakan tentang hilangnya signal kapal yang memang menggunakan ais tapi kemudian hilang signal. Ini mungkin masih bisa ditelusuri dari prediksi terhadap kemungkinan alur dan waktu serta koordinat yang akan dilalui oleh kapal tersebut pada saat hilangnya signal. Namun kalau alat tertentu, kalau kita tidak melakukan infiltrasi dengan cara menempelkan tracking, maka tidak akan bisa deteksi karena mungkin keterbatasan kita di Indonesia terkait dengan teknologi satelit. Mungkin nanti other side-nya atau dengan kata lain, kalau bisa DIE membantu kita untuk penelusuran kapal-kapal yang hilang signal tersebut yang memang sudah high risk itu dengan menggunakan teknologi satelit yang dipunyai oleh mungkin Amerika atau DIE. Kemudian berikutnya terkait dengan penjelasan mengenai ZEE yang mungkin komen saya adalah terkait dengan mungkin kemarin kasus yang 309 itu yang merupakan kerjasama antara DIE, BNN dan kita. Kita harus firm mengacu kepada UNCLOS atau United Convention Law of the Sea yang dikuatkan dengan United Convention Illicit Drug or Narcotic and Psychotropic, bahwa pada intinya penegakan hukum di zona ekonomi eksklusif itu dapat dilakukan baik berdasarkan inisiatif maupun berdasarkan permintaan kita kepada negara yang ada di tetangga kita. Itu mengacu pada artikel 118 kalau tidak salah di dalam UNCLOS. Artikel 108 di dalam UNCLOS. Itu dikatakan bahwa negara yang memiliki atau bendera ZEE itu memiliki kewenangan untuk melakukan penegakan hukum. Dan ditambahkan dikuatkan oleh United Nations Convention Illicit Drug bahwa kapal yang diberikan kewenangan untuk melakukan penegakan hukum terhadap kapal target yang dicurigai di ZEE harus kapal negara. Baik itu kapal militeri, kapal polisi, maupun kapal negara lainnya yang mempunyai identitas kapal negara. Jadi mungkin silakan nanti di komen seperti apa, supaya ini apa, karena skema-skema sekarang yang digunakan untuk penyelundupan, itu sudah memiliki kecerdasan intelektual dalam hal hukum internasional. Karena mereka sudah mulai memperhatikan dan melakukan perlawanan terhadap kemungkinan celah hukum artikel internasional. Seperti persidangan terhadap 309 kemarin, didapatkan fakta bahwa mereka mengaku ditangkap di 200,10 something nautical mil. Padahal kita menangkapnya di kurang lebih 120 nautical mil. Nah, ini berarti sudah ada upaya-upaya sindikat internasional untuk mengetahui lebih dalam celah hukum tentang batasan-batasan aktivitas yang bisa dilakukan oleh negara di ZEE. Kemudian strategi ketiga, yang strategi poin ketiga yang mungkin saya tertarik untuk menanyakan kepada kolege saya Andy, bagaimana kemungkinan untuk melakukan cross-border investigation atau cross-border control delivery. Jadi artinya bahwa sindikasi pengiriman barang narkotik ini jangan ditangkap sampai diungkap sindikatnya di tempat tujuan. Jangan hanya ditangkap barangnya, tapi harus diungkap sampai sindikatnya di tempat tujuan. Apakah memungkinkan itu dilakukan prakteknya secara internasional? Kemudian saya address kepada Fiona dari ABF terkait dengan penggunaan EPI dan PNR ya, menjadi teknologi untuk targeting. Dua hal yang menarik yang saya sampaikan, bagaimana kita mengantisipasi isu human right terhadap berbagai macam data personal traveling yang ada di dalam EPI dan PNR, karena kami juga harus belajar bagaimana mengantisipasi perlawanan penumpang atau sindikat terhadap targeting kita yang menggunakan EPI atau PNR. Kemudian bagaimana salah satu koneksitas antara risk indicator yang tadi telah dijelaskan di slide, kemudian data indicator yang ada di slide tadi, kalau dikaitkan dengan case study, artinya gini, kalau memang punya pengalaman bahwa salah satu case itu didapatkan berdasarkan analisa risk indicator atau analisa terhadap data indicator yang tercantum di dalam EPI, API, atau PNR. Kemudian dikaitkan, sehingga kemudian analis mengambil kesimpulan untuk mentarget si penumpang dan kemudian dilakukan pemeriksaan baik barang maupun badan. Mungkin itu Pak Randy, terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Pak Terry. Mungkin sebelumnya saya ingin memastikan dua pertanyaan di awal Pak, yang tadi mengenai utilization of manual surveillance tadi dibandingkan dengan apa Pak? Mohon izin. Yang pertanyaan ke NCIS.
Jadi, karena tema secara global tentang webinar ini kan penggunaan informasi dan information technology. Nah, siap. Apakah ini menurut NCIS atau menurut Brady, apakah ini absolut atau tetap bergantung kepada conventional surveillance? Artinya konfirmasi terhadap kondisi fisik baik orang, barang, alat angkut maupun elemen-elemen lain yang memang akan dibandingkan atau dikombinasikan dengan penggunaan informasi teknologi. Kemudian yang kedua adalah terkait dengan penggunaan dark web. Bagaimana NCIS berstrategi menggunakan atau mendalami dark web di dalam mengetahui atau mendeteksi perdagangan gelap narkotika.
Baik, terima kasih atas pertanyaannya Pak Terry. So, ladies and gentlemen.
Pak Terry ini. Pak Terry.
Yep. Is there any concern from US Embassy?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Pak Terry gave the speaker address three speakers with his question. So the first is for Special Agent Waiters, and the second is for Special Agent Xia, and the third is for Ms. Fiona Douglas. So for the first question, I would like to invite Special Agent Waiters to answer the question. The questions are, the first is the utilization of IT for surveillance is exclusive, or we have to also use the IT surveillance with manual surveillance? So is it it's exclusive for NCIS to use the IT surveillance, or in NCIS you still use like the combination of manual and also IT surveillance? And then the second question is how to address the narcotics syndicate which use the dark web, and how we can also use the dark web specialists to detect these syndications. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak, for your question. So currently, we typically will use a combination of the the old school surveillance, like I like to call it, since I've been a cop for 15 years, with people on the ground, sources that are on the ground, kind of telling us that information. But there are times where we will need to exploit, for instance, social media, cellular phones, all kinds of various data that's out there, including the dark web, as you mentioned, to obtain additional information. We currently have a fusion center in Bahrain, where we do collect a lot of that data. And for areas that concern Indonesia, we provide that information to Indonesia or to our DEA counterparts for distribution. And then can you repeat the second question again? Sorry.
The second question is related to the dark web. So how is there any personnel in NCIS which has the skills and expertise on dark web, and how to utilize their skill in detecting the narcotics or drugs transaction through dark web?
Okay, so we do have a team in Washington, D.C. that is tasked with monitoring information specifically for Indonesia through the dark web. That is at my request that they conduct that search. And anything that pertains typically to terrorism-related activity is my main focus when it comes to dark web. They provide me with that information, and then I provide it to your Indonesian counterparts. But specifically, any intelligence that we get from our fusion center in Bahrain is typically passed to you guys either through DEA or through direct contacts.
Okay, I think that's a really clear answer, and thank you, Special Agent Wetter, for your answer. And then we will move to the second question for Special Agent Xia. I think Pak Victor has already translated it to Special Agent Xia, so the screen is yours.
Thank you. Bapak Terry, hello, my friend. Thank you for your questions. For the first part, can DEA help Customs to monitor vessels AIS, and what can be done about that? There are ways that we are able to assist with your monitoring and analysis of those vessels. Part of that will extend from those websites that I showed to more of a paid subscription on there, where they can give you a longer history and a more detailed record of a lot of those vessels. Part of that challenge will then be, how do you integrate that information into your fusion center and the information that you already have to make the work product or the intelligence product more valuable to you? So how are we able to monitor that AIS, both through open source and then obviously your government of Indonesia information as well? Are there radar stations? Are there GPS receivers? What technology in Indonesia can we use to build upon some of that already open source data? And that we can talk about more of the how to do that offline as well. But yes, it is, we are able to help. The second question, how can Customs and DEA be in a cross-border joint operation related to controlled delivery before entering Indonesia, for example, in the Z? For those type of operations, because we are in contact with multiple agencies and host nations, for example, all the way from Australia, New Zealand, to Malaysia, to offices in the Middle East, we're able to help network very quickly with a lot of our allied law enforcement counterparts. So if you have information on a boat or something that is incoming or even exiting Indonesia, we're able to quickly talk and discuss and share that information with allied counterparts to be able to come together with a joint operation that will not interfere with something else that another country or law enforcement agency is doing as well. So part of the information sharing is communication quickly so that we can make sure that we have a unified response to that operation.
Okay. Thank you, Special Agent Xia, for your answers. And then the next question is for Ms. Fiona Douglas. So the first question, I think Mr. Terry still have a bunch of questions on his hand, but this is two questions for you. The first is how to address human rights issue on utilizing the APA and PNR, because we access their personal data, and it's currently an issue regarding to the human rights, how Australian Border Force address this issue. And the second question is the connection between risk indicator and data indicator versus the case study. So is there any case study you mentioned before that was the result of the analysis from the risk indicator or from data analysis? Thank you.
Selamat siang Bapak Terry, saya senang bertemu Anda. So in terms of the human rights implications for PNR and API data, we actually, when we first started using PNR data, we legislated it with the Australian Airlines, so Qantas, to provide that information in under the Customs Act. And as part of making something into legislation in Australia, we must go through a very strict process. And one of the things that we must do is a human rights assessment. So we must consider what the change is, what the change will require, and that must be then considered against a range of human rights considerations. So when we implemented it, it went through that assessment. And in terms of our use of PNR data, obviously off the Australian Airlines and also out of the European Union, we actually sign up to agreements with the airlines and with the European Union to access EU PNR. And we are only allowed to access and use that information in accordance with those agreements, which does include privacy and human rights considerations. All the data must be stored securely. We can only use it for the purposes that we have agreed to. And in terms of some of the risk indicators, for us, I wouldn't say it's just data and information analysis or just our officers. That we have to use both to form a full picture of a traveller. So, for example, the first case study that I mentioned about the toiletries, the cocaine in the toiletries coming through Perth Airport, that initially was picked up through PNR and intelligence analysis. There was a few risk indicators such as the routing and ticket purchase shortly before arrival. And it was then the questioning and the use of trace detection technology that actually identified the cocaine in the toiletries. The second one, the Australian man coming from Vietnam with the pseudoephedrine in the food packets, he was actually targeted by ABF officers on his arrival. So he wasn't picked up through the intelligence analysis. He was selected by ABF officers just chatting to passengers when they arrive. Obviously for us, Vietnam is a high-risk source country for narcotics. So we do pay extra attention to flights from Vietnam. And so, yeah, it was officers talking to him. He raised suspicions with them and they then put him in for an in-depth baggage examination. And that's when they found the pseudoephedrine.
Thank you, Ms. Fiona Douglas, for your answers. And I don't see any hand raised on the
Pak
participant
Redi,
section
bentar ya.
here.
Terakhir ya.
Siap.
Jadi gini, kenapa saya tanyakan terkait dengan isu human right? Supaya rekan-rekan yang berkoneksi langsung dengan PNR atau API atau airline atau dengan PRM maupun yang tidak langsung berkoneksi dengan PRM agar betul-betul tidak mengekspos tentang penggunaan tools intelijen berupa PRM tersebut ke entitas-entitas lain yang tidak authorized atau tidak diberikan kewenangan. Karena nanti apabila ada perlawanan terkait dengan HAM, nanti address-nya tetap ke Bea Cukai. Jadi agar kiranya diminimalisir mengekspos tools intelijen berupa API, PNR atau PRM ke entitas-entitas lain yang memang tidak authorized karena berdasarkan MOU antara kita dengan airline. Itu aja stressingnya. Makanya saya tanyakan mengenai human right karena tidak mudah. Nanti yang dilawan adalah kita, bukan orang-orang yang kita ajak untuk berdiskusi untuk mengekspos. Itu Pak Randy.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Terry. Jadi ini juga concern untuk kita semua, para pegawai Bea dan Cukai, untuk selalu mengingat bahwa tools yang menjadi amanah kita, yaitu PNR dan API ini, adalah benar-benar tools yang merupakan hasil dari kerjasama Bea Cukai dan instansi terkait, terutama airlines. Jadi kita harus benar-benar memahami bahwa di dalamnya terdapat tanggung jawab kita, termasuk ada di dalamnya hak asasi manusia atau human rights. Jadi kita hanya berhak mengaksesnya dan hanya membagikannya informasi tersebut kepada pihak-pihak yang terotorisasi. Jangan sampai kita menyalahgunakan wewenang kita untuk menyebarkan informasi tersebut kepada pihak yang tidak berwenang, karena hal ini bisa menyebabkan dituntutnya mungkin Bea Cukai, karena Bea Cukai lah yang bisa mengakses hal tersebut oleh pihak-pihak terkait. Jadi memang ini harus menjadi concern kita semua. Ladies and gentlemen, and the speaker, Mr. Terry emphasized that we have to make sure that we rightfully utilize the PNR and APA data so that we only give the data to the authorized institution and not share it with other or third party which has no concern on the data of the passengers. And thank you, Pak Terry, such a great questions and great reminder for us. And also we will move to the slide because I don't see any hand raised right now from the participant. So I would like to address like a single question for every speaker. The first question is for Special Agent Waiters. It's about intelligence and information sharing. Does NCIS ever shared the information to Indonesia? If yes, in which case? Jadi apakah NCIS pernah berbagi informasi intelijen dengan Indonesia dan apa contohnya?
So yes, in fact, the information for the case that Special Agent Andrew Desai mentioned from February, the initial information came from NCIS in Bahrain. So we were able to provide that information to DEA, our counterparts here, because we know that they have the better contacts to serve and execute that information.
Thank you, Special Agent Waiters. Jadi jawaban dari Special Agent Waiters adalah biasanya NCIS akan berkoordinasi dengan DEA karena DEA memiliki kontak yang lebih baik dengan institusi-institusi di Indonesia, termasuk di dalamnya Bea dan Cukai. Jadi selama ini sudah dilakukan kerjasama tersebut dan sudah dilakukan sharing informasi, namun sebagian besar tidak secara langsung, melainkan melalui DEA. Thank you. And the next question is for DEA. So the question is, does the training provided by the DEA ever include Indonesian customs officers? Can women participate in DEA training? Jadi pertanyaan adalah, apakah pelatihan yang diadakan oleh DEA itu pernah bekerja sama dengan Bea Cukai Indonesia? Dan apakah pelatihan-pelatihan tersebut dapat juga diikuti oleh pegawai-pegawai perempuan?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, it's been done for at least 4 years so far. When we host trainings, oftentimes the participants will not only be from Bea Cukai, they will also be from BNN and Polri, because we understand that oftentimes a lot of the agencies do not often get a chance to work together on a shared mission, that we try and create an environment where you get to meet colleagues from different agencies to be able to share that contact information and to share a common goal in investigating narcotics crimes. So as an answer to your question, absolutely.
Thank you, Special Agent Shia, for your answer. And we will move to Ms. Fiona Douglas. So we have like 3 questions, but I will focus on 2 of them. So the first question is, what is the main reason in centralizing the targeting center compares to delegating it to each offices or airports? And then the second question is, in NBTC, do you formulate sets of logics for targeting or profiling, or you leave that to each analyst formulate their own profiling logics? So, dalam bahasa Indonesia, apakah alasan utama dalam mensentralisasi targeting center dan alih-alih mendelegasikannya ke setiap airport dan setiap kantor? Kemudian yang pertanyaan kedua, dalam NBTC, apakah Australian Border Force memformulasikan set of logic, jadi flow logika untuk targeting atau profiling, atau Australian Border Force memberikan kuasa penuh kepada para analisnya untuk memformulasikan logics dari profiling mereka masing-masing. Yeah, so I would like to repeat the question. The first question is, what is the main reasons in centralizing the targeting center compares to delegating it to each offices or airports? And the second is, in NBTC, do you formulate sets of logics for targeting or profiling, or you leave that to each analyst to formulate their own profiling logics? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. So the reason we have a centralised targeting capability in the National Border Targeting Centre is to bring together all of our data sources into one location, so they can access PNR, they can access our visa information, they can access our cargo information, all of our intelligence through one central location. But that is not the only level of profiling and targeting that we do. Each of our airports then do their own targeting. So they better understand more the nuances, the types of travellers that they see on a regular basis. And they will actually then do their own targeting. They'll just walk up to people and say, hey, where have you come from? What are you doing? They'll look for suspicious behaviour indicators. Maybe someone's like really nervous. So we do it centralised because that's where all of the systems and all of the data comes into, but equally that's supplemented by our officers on the front line. And in terms of the logics that the NBTC uses, it's a combination of both. So we have a lot of rules in our system that are based on previous detections, previous indicators. So some of the ones that I mentioned around high-risk source countries, ticket purchase not long before somebody travelled, So they're all usually really common indicators that we've seen in drug detections in Australia. But it's also up to each analyst as well to use their intuition and identify things that seem a little bit suspicious to them. So you can have people who in the PNR data look like any other traveller, but there will just be one small thing that they use their intuition about that has then led to big drug detection. So it's a combination of both.
Thank you, Ms. Fiona, for your answers. And we will have one last question. Before the last question, I would like to invite Pak Terry.
Halo, selamat siang. Izin, saya Terry dari Kantor Bea Cukai Perak. Saya ingin bertanya menggunakan bahasa Indonesia saja ya, mungkin nanti bisa tolong diterjemahkan. Kepada Mr. Andreusia, ada beberapa pertanyaan. Seperti kita ketahui, data maupun informasi negara high risk seperti Golden Crescent, Golden Triangle itu sudah banyak diketahui oleh umum. Nah, apakah DIE melakukan analisa terhadap negara-negara low risk? Jika iya, bagaimana dapat mendeteksi bahwa ada potensi pengiriman dari negara low risk? Terus pertanyaan selanjutnya, dari pengalaman Anda, apakah pernah ada keterlibatan pihak pelayaran kapal maupun perusahaan besar yang memanfaatkan kredibilitas mereka? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Terry atas pertanyaannya. So, Mr. Terry asked about asked a question or two questions to Special Agency, and I think we can proceed to the answer. The screen is yours, Special Agency.
Yes, thank you. For the first part of your question, regards to potentially high-risk countries or low-risk countries, especially around the Golden Crescent or even the Golden Triangle. Yes, there are obviously much higher risk areas and ports of entry that we would focus on. What we can do is we can combine information from our offices in those regions to give you potential indicators, just like yes, we can help with that in conjunction with countries and host nations. For the second part of the question, do we monitor cargo companies for potential drug smuggling? Yes, we do that in conjunction with our other agencies in the United States government, such as Customs and Border Protection, as well as Homeland Security investigations. So together, we're able to compile information into a fusion center back in the United States based on high-risk cargo companies, shipping companies, and potential destinations and origins for cargo. What we can do is we're able to share that with you based on your information, again, that bilateral sharing, based on your information on import and export and even passengers. In the United States, we have a place called the National Targeting Center, where it's a fusion center that we integrate not only airports, seaports, we also integrate with the land border. We are able to plug in, if we are able to create an agreement to plug in some of that information that you have from Indonesia into that system and see if there's any high-risk companies or passengers that happen to be coming, or even cargo. So as a short answer to your question, yes, we are able to facilitate some of that information sharing. Yes, that is a possibility.
Thank you, Special Agency. Jadi seperti yang dijelaskan oleh Special Agency bahwa Amerika Serikat dalam hal ini DEA telah melakukan analisis dan identifikasi tidak hanya ke negara-negara yang high risk, tapi juga ke negara-negara low risk yang berpotensi memiliki perubahan dari struktur negara tersebut, baik melalui data penumpang, terus kemudian kargo, shipping, dan kemudian semua itu dikoordinasikan dalam suatu badan yang disebut National Targeting Unit di Amerika, dan Indonesia dan Amerika bisa bekerja sama secara bilateral, yang kemudian nantinya akan terjadi pertukaran data dari Amerika terkait segala hal yang bisa di-share, terutama tadi terkait juga mulai dari shipping dan juga perusahaan kargo yang memiliki potensi tinggi, bahkan bisa tagging ke penumpang, tidak hanya seaport tapi juga airport. Kemudian yang menjadi pesan kunci dari apa yang disebutkan oleh Special Agent Andrusia adalah DEA dan Amerika Serikat secara terbuka memberikan opsi untuk pertukaran data secara bilateral dengan Indonesia. Terima kasih Pak Terry atas pertanyaannya. Thank you Mr. Terry for your question. And we have like very limited time now, but I would like to ask like one question. You can answer it very shortly. What do you think? It's for like all the speakers. You can answer it just like one very concise sentence. Like, what do you think about the application of big data and artificial intelligence in identifying risks in ship routes, passenger analysis, etc.? Do you have any concern regarding the utilization of artificial intelligence? Thank you. Maybe Special Agent Waiters can start answering the question.
My only concern in targeting people specifically by their race is that we will miss a lot of other things if we're just only looking at one particular race. The use of artificial intelligence is definitely helpful with us identifying potential issues or potential persons that may be attempting to traffic in. So if we can find some type of program to assist with that, then by all means, hey, we're here to support, and we will continue to support that.
Yeah, thank you, Special Agent Waiters. Jadi menurut Special Agent Waiters, concern satu-satunya dari Special Agent Waiters adalah terkait menggunakan artificial intelligence ini sebagai satu-satunya alat, karena dalam artificial intelligence tersebut masih terdapat bias seperti dalam mengidentifikasi warna kulit. Terkadang artificial intelligence memiliki penilaian tertentu terhadap warna kulit tertentu. Thank you, Special Agent Waiters. That's like so insightful, because in one of my course, it is important to make sure that the artificial intelligence, the tool, the machine, is smart enough to get like the real data for a diverse people. So this machine is smart enough to identify the right target. Thank you. And we proceed to Special Agent Xia.
Yes, I will address that question in regards to the information that I presented. Our goal is to find outliers and anomalies. So when we use big data and AI, we can compile a lot of information of what is normal and use that to find what is abnormal. And that is our goal, to find what is not normal so that we can search it and provide greater investigation and devote more resources to those data points.
Thank you, Special Agent Xia. Jadi menurut Special Agent Xia, salah satu hal yang terpenting dari penggunaan artificial intelligence adalah dengan big data, dengan data yang sangat banyak dan dibantu artificial intelligence, kita bisa menemukan outliers dari data yang sangat besar tersebut, sehingga dari outliers tersebut kita bisa mengecek apakah outliers tersebut memang memiliki kecenderungan, misalnya kalau dalam shipment itu, oh berarti shipment ini bisa jadi membawa narkotika dan sebagainya. Karena seperti yang disampaikan oleh Special Agency tadi, bahwa kita harus bisa memilah dan memilih. Jadi memilah dari sebegitu banyaknya data, mana kira-kira data yang outlier atau yang berbeda dengan data-data yang besar tadi. Dari pool data tersebut kita harus bisa mengidentifikasi, dan artificial intelligence akan sangat membantu kita dalam hal ini. Thank you, Special Agency. And last but not least, Ms. Fiona Douglas.
Yeah, we have so much data out there. Bapak Sharif talked about the cyber crawling and all the detections that they've picked up through open source information. There's cargo information, there's visa information, and it's all really, really helpful, especially as, government agencies, we're tasked with very big responsibilities, but very limited resources. So data does help us a lot in being able to pick up those anomalies and outliers, as Andrew has mentioned, identify those risk indicators. But ultimately, it is also our customs officers working at the front line that pick up things that we can never pick up in the data. So very, very helpful and a very good starting point, but it's not our only tool.
Thank you, Ms. Fiona Douglas. Jadi yang di-emphasize oleh Ms. Fiona Douglas adalah Big Data and Artificial Intelligence adalah starting point yang sangat bagus untuk analisis risiko, dan telah digunakan selama ini baik oleh Australian Border Force maupun bea cukai di Indonesia. Tapi yang perlu diingat adalah ada hal-hal yang tidak bisa dilakukan oleh artificial intelligence sampai saat ini, yaitu analisis barang dan penumpang secara fisik atau secara nyata, yang sampai saat ini masih menjadi domain dari keahlian petugas bea cukai di lapangan, karena merekalah yang bisa secara aktif menganalisis baik profil penumpang maupun profil barang. Thank you, Ms. Fiona Douglas, for your question, and thank you for all the speaker. I invite all of you, all the participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to give a round of applause to all the speakers. Thank you so much. And I know that you still have a question. I'm so sorry because, again, we have like very limited time, and right now I have to sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your active participation and insightful discussion. I know that you are still have many questions on your hand, but unfortunately we have very limited time today. And also it's almost 12 in the noon. So I would like to invite our Master of Ceremony, Fiona. Oh, I'm sorry, Vita.
Okay, thank you, Randy, for leading a fruitful discussion, and to all participants who have engaged in this session. Now, we would like to invite our Director of Aceh Regional Customs Office, Bapak Safu Adi, to give his closing remarks. Please welcome Bapak Safu Adi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, and may peace and blessing be upon all of us. In the spirit of the unity and shared purpose, we extend our warm greeting with the hope that they resonate across culture and borders. Esteemed participants and colleagues, we wish to express our gratitude to our distinguished speaker, who graced the NEXUS International Webinar with their invaluable insight and expertise. Mr. Andrew Shia, Special Agent, Jakarta Country Office, Drug Enforcement Administration, USA, Ms. Brandy Waiters, Chief of Force Protection Detachment, Special Agent of Naval Criminal Investigative Services, USA, Mrs. Fiona Douglas, Inspector, First Secretary Indonesia and Timor-Leste, Australian Border Force, Australia. We fully support the views articulated by Mrs. Secretary and Mr. Director Narcotic Interdiction. The NEXUS International Webinar is a shining example of collaborative innovation, bringing together the Aceh Regional Office, Secretary DGCE, Direktorat of Narcotic Interdiction, Directorate of Custom and Excise International Corporation, and esteemed partners. This program embodies our unwavering commitment to prevent and eradicate illicit drug trafficking through the enhancement of our human resources capacity and competence. Our mission takes on the heightened significance due to Aceh's role as a primary entry point for NPP smuggling via sea routes. Alarmingly, statistics indicate that over 70% of methamphetamines MPP prosecution in Indonesia occur in Aceh. With the advanced international flight at Sultan Iskandar Muda Airport in Aceh Besar, we have encountered new challenges in the aerial domains. However, we are pleased to report our success in preventing methamphetamine smuggling at this airport in early 2023. UNODC data underscore the syndicate adept use of technology in drug trafficking. Therefore, the insight shared by our esteemed speaker on handling drug cases with a technology information-driven approach are of paramount importance. With enthusiasm and unwavering support, we embrace the NEXUS International Webinar is conduit a global knowledge sharing. Finally, I extend my deepest appreciation to our esteemed speaker, the dedicated committee coordinated by the Narcotic and Prohibited Goods Section of Enforcement and Investigation Division at the Aceh DGCE Regional Office and all involved parties. We anticipate that the program will not only yield immediately benefit, but also foster ongoing insights, new knowledge, and the constant evolution of our collective expertise. We look forward to cultivating sustained collaboration with the U.S. Embassy and ABF, ensuring that the benefit acquired persists, benefiting of our participants and fortifying the DGCE role as a guardian of our community. In closing, I express my gratitude to the Divines and hereby officially declare the conclusion of inaugural event of NEXUS International Webinar Series. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bapak Safu Adi, for the closing remarks. It also ends and sum up all agenda we have this morning. But before we say goodbye, we would like to thank all the committee. We say especially Bapak Nanang, Head of Narcotics and Prohibited Goods Section, as our team coordinator for all the effort and making things possible. To all guest speakers, thank you for spending your time with us so we can learn a lot of things from you. And of course, once again, thank you all the participants for coming, and don't forget to fill your attendance list because soon we will send an e-certificate to all eligible participants. We hope everyone can have a good time in this webinar. And thank you so much for your attention. See you on the next Nexus webinar series. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The meeting room will be closed in 3, 2, 1. Thank you.